You're listening to State of Arrest with South Florida criminal defense attorney William R. Moore. Today, special guest William DiRenzo, renowned DUI attorney in Fort Lauderdale. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Great to be here.
There's been a lot of changes to DUI in general over the past, 5 years? I mean, the way it's policed, the Board of Administrative Reviews, hard time, everything.
Yes.
I don't even know do we even have a DUI task force in effect right now in Broward County?
In Broward County, we do have a DUI task force. It's been greatly reduced over the last years. I think as of right now, we've got 4 members on the task force. Now, if you want to compare that to other counties or other cities in the state of Florida, thinking about up in the Orange County, Orlando area, or the Hillsborough County, Tampa area, I think it's probably about 4 times that size.
I know we used to have it as higher than 10. And are any of the old guys still around that were the real experts at it? Ficini?
All of the real experts are gone. We have new experts in on the DUI task force.
Oh.
There's been a lot of turnover on the task force recently in Broward County at the Sheriff's Office.
And what about the outfit of the vehicles? I know that when things first started, I don't know if it was funding or what it was, but I think De Jesus didn't even have an in-car camera.
Here's in my understanding what's going on now. All of the task force members have car cameras in their car, but I believe, I'm not sure if they're complete 100%, but the Sheriff's Office is transitioning to get all of the deputies' body cameras. So most of our deputies have body cameras, and the task force members have body cameras also. So now with the task force, we've got a car cam most of the time, and we've also got a body cam.
Okay, I can see that, but regular officers, the sergeants, they do not like their non-DUI trained officers, or even if they are DUI trained, they don't like getting them wrapped up for 6 hours in a DUI investigation. And they're letting people go, aren't they?
I think that's part of the problem with the municipalities or the cities in doing the DUIs. You see a large decrease in the number of DUI arrests in the cities. Like Hollywood used to be a huge player in the DUI game. They had their own DUI task force. They had their own breathalyzer. Not anymore. Pembroke Pines used to make a lot of DUI arrests. They still do. Coral Springs has become a lot bigger in the DUI game.
Coral Springs has their hand in everything.
Yeah, Coral Springs has
the burglary task force, which is off the charts, but they're still active in the DUI game.
Coral Springs makes a lot of DUI arrests. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think some of the cities have told the guys to back off on that. No, I don't know. This is my opinion. I think the cities have told the guys to back off a little bit. And, hey, if you get one, call the task force. The BSO task force will come out to Pembroke Pines. They'll come out to Miramar. They'll come out to Fort Lauderdale. And they'll take over the DUI arrest. And the officer that made the stop will be, like you said, the officer that made the stop will be back on the road in an hour, as opposed to 4 hours for a DUI arrest.
Right. And so let's take 4 DUI task force officers, all fairly new, as opposed to the veterans that we used to go up against. And Broward County, Fort Lickerdale. Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. They're wrapped up immediately, all at once.
Yep.
And then, just be careful. See on your way. I've been hearing these stories. We all have little brothers. Our significant others have little brothers and sisters, and they're at that age where they're drinking and driving because they're young, and they're letting them go. I got hit by a drunk driver on my bike, remember?
Yeah.
Right when all this started going down. This was how many years ago now? And, I wasn't going to call the police, being a criminal defense attorney, and then the drunk started chasing me down to beat me up after I was already injured, so the cops came, police, and they did not make that DUI arrest. They did not.
Well, the funny thing when we talk about DUI arrests a lot, you'll see other cases come in, and you'll see that the police end up making arrests for maybe a possession of cocaine, or they'll make an arrest for a possession of marijuana over 20 grams. You will see in the police report the signs and symptoms that you generally see on a DUI arrest. Maybe an odor, maybe bloodshot eyes, maybe slurred speech, maybe balance problems, and they don't even end up doing a DUI investigation because they in my mind anyways, they figure, hey, look, I've got this guy on a felony charge. Why am I going to mess around and tie up everything for 4 hours on a DUI investigation when I've already hit him with a felony possession charge?
You know, and I've got to say, from a policing and prosecution standpoint, if there's drugs in the car, and I'm a police officer, I'm a prosecutor, I'm the elected state attorney, drugs in the car, but I've also got the defendant for a DUI, right? Pull that DUI out. Don't charge the DUI. And the reason I say this is because jurors don't like it when they are being told up and down the defendant had slurred speech, the suspect had red eyes, was argumentative, couldn't follow instructions, swayed side to side, couldn't stand up straight during the instructional phase. And then one of those things isn't true.
Oh.
You know? They weren't slurring.
Sure.
And that jurors have a real problem with that. They feel betrayed.
Yeah.
They feel the defendant has been betrayed, and they feel scared, and they'll throw the whole case. They'll lose that drug case.
Sure.
Right.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Throw the DUI. But I don't think that's why they're doing it.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion, I feel, hey, we got him on the felony. Why do we need to hit him with another misdemeanor? We got him on the felony. Don't waste our time with the DUI. We'll take him in for the felony.
Right. And for those of you that don't defend DUIs or are just interested in criminal law in general, handling a trial involving drugs, the possession of drugs, that's quick. That's quick. A DUI trial, that's got everything. You may not have realized it, and forgive me for those of you who know this like the back of your hand, but DUI arrests have electronic surveillance, the in-car cams, now body cams. Mm-hmm. They have engineering, experts, the intoxilizer, biology with regard to the ingesting of alcohol, the effect it has on you, medicine, toxicology, the biology, because certain symptoms manifest themselves as impairment, right? Diabetes is
sure. Oh yeah.
Right, and it just goes on and on. Double jeopardy because they take your license and authenticating the intoxilizer results. I mean, DUI trials just take forever.
They do. There's a lot of evidentiary issues involved with the DUI. There's, like you said, getting this into evidence, getting that into evidence. There's a whole predicate that you have to lay if you want to get a breath test into evidence. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's videos that you have to get into evidence. Oftentimes, if we find ourselves in trial, we are stipulating to the video because most of the time we actually want that video in evidence because if we are in a trial, most of the time that video is going to be good for the defense.
Right, that disconnect.
Yes.
That disconnect. Get a commitment from the jury beforehand. I know you were shocked the minute that video started being played.
Absolutely.
But, one of the things I may have been smiling before when you started talking about all the evidentiary issues, because we have very different styles when it comes to defending DUIs. Both are extremely effective, right? You attack all of these evidentiary issues way before trial, and I hide everything that I possibly can, and then I just pounce during trial.
Sure.
But you stop it before it goes to the adjudicatory phase, which I'm sure the clients just love you to death for.
Listen, I was just going to tell you that most of the time the clients want the case resolved in the best possible fashion before you get to trial.
Before you get there.
Yeah.
But as you do know, because you're certainly no stranger to DUI trials, I've got 300 logged under your belt. I'm telling you, when you're in that trial with somebody who's otherwise not a criminal, not a hardened criminal, they made a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Crime, and they're scared to death, and boy, that's kind of feels like, in a way, not so much feels like, hey, I'm a hero, but this person is looking at you like you're one.
Sure,
save me.
Absolutely. You have a tremendous load on your shoulders when you're going to trial in any case. Some people look at it as, oh, it's just a DUI, it's no big deal. But for that person sitting next to you, oh, it's a big deal because most of them have a lot of their future riding on whether they get found guilty or not guilty. And it's a huge deal and a huge amount of pressure, and that's why it takes so much time to get prepared and, a lot of pressure on us doing those things.
Yeah. You lose your job for first-time DUI conviction now.
Sure. There's a lot of people out there that yet their job is on the line, and that's why we end up going to trial. They're like, Bill, I can't take a plea. If I take a plea, I'm going to lose my job. I said, well, hey, look, if you're going to lose your job, then we got to go for it. We got to go to trial. That's the only answer.
Just a few more questions for you, Bill, because
sure.
we have 4 task force officers in Broward County. And we don't have a diversion program. Do we?
Not. No, we do not.
Okay, so DUIs are down, that's for sure.
Yes.
They put diversion programs in place. The elected officials, the elected state attorneys in Miami-Dade
Yes.
and Palm Beach County needed to put diversion programs. I mean, an elected official who's charged with prosecuting and protecting the citizens of that jurisdiction, it's not a good move to put a DUI diversion program into place unless if they're getting tossed because your courts can't handle it.
And yeah, that's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. I mean, obviously there's an argument on both sides of the fence, you know, for the diversion programs. When they do put the diversion program, they're going to put a lot of restrictions in there. For example, some of the restrictions are it's absolutely positively got to be a first-time DUI arrest. There can't be an accident. There can't be any additional charges with it. For example, you can't have driving on a license suspended, or you can't have a possession of marijuana.
What about enhanced?
Enhanced, yes. They will allow it in with an enhanced, but it just depends on how enhanced it is. Most of the time, they will put a cap at a .20. So if you're above a .20, it's kind of outside of their parameters. Now, sometimes, depending on the situation, they'll let it in, but I think most of the time, if you're above a .20, that's excluded unless they want to let it in.
What about prior bad acts? Is it just limited to drinking, or is it,
Usually they are looking at DUI offenses as long as this is your first DUI offense, but I think they do expand that. And I don't have the list right offhand because it doesn't pertain a lot, but sometimes if you have prior felony offenses, they're not going to let you in. But they do kind of limit the number of people that can get in. It's not just like, oh, any first offender is going to get in. You can never have been, you can never have had a prior diversion program, so it's not like, oh, we'll go to Texas and we'll have a diversion program there. Oh, I got one in Florida, so I get a diversion program again.
all right, touring the nation, trying out the different diversion programs.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
Right? And since it's the state that puts these things into effect, reluctantly, the state's the entity that sort of has the discretion to decide who goes, as opposed to it being codified or made by lawmakers.
Yeah. So if you
At the
have
mercy
something
of
where you say, hey, look, you know what, my client got into an accident, but it was in a parking lot and there was a scratch on this bumper, a scratch on that bumper, they stayed, they exchanged, they did everything that they were supposed to do, will you make an exception? They can do that if they so choose because they set out the parameters, they set out the guidelines, and if they want to make exceptions to those, they certainly can do that.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. One of the things that we didn't have time to talk about, because we never do, I'd like to get you back in here. I want to go over now, since DUIs are sort of falling off or have fallen off for task force officers, hardly any arrests. I'd like to talk about the political machine and all the money that was being made by DUI, from the sober houses to the treatment centers, to the interlock, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
to the fines, to good gosh, the booting of the car, counseling.
And truthfully, that's a lot of the times you get that question when prospective clients come into your office and they kind of ask you, listen, aside from your legal fee, what am I looking at? What's this thing going to cost if everything goes south and we aren't able to beat the case? What am I going to have to pay? And just like you said, there's a fine or a fee for everything in there.
To the private industry.
And there are certain, and it goes to private industry. And there are certain minimum mandatory penalties that are required by law for a DUI. And like you said, the private industry has gotten in there with the interlock and the immobilization and the victim impact panel and all this stuff, that the person who gets arrested for DUI is going to have to come out of pocket with a lot of money for this stuff.
With a lot of money. I mean, and this is how it happened. Some entrepreneur bought a ton, and when I say a ton, a few hundred steering wheel locks at auction for nothing, and then he lobbied to have immobilization of vehicles for first-time DUI offenders, mandatory. So for every DUI that pled or was found to be guilty, if the defendant was found to be guilty, had to pay this company, owned by this guy, $200
Sure.
so they could come and put one of those rusty steering wheel locks on
Yeah.
the car for 10 days.
You got it.
I'm wondering I'm wondering what's being done, if it's complacency or some niche that's prevented. You know, you would think that just the private industry and the greed, they want to keep that money going. You'd think that they would be pushing, be ushering Mothers Against Drunk Driving back into the courtrooms.
Yeah, you would think so. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is a very powerful force when it comes to DUIs, and stepping up the enforcement, stepping up the penalties. They're a very powerful force in getting things done when it comes to DUIs in the law.
Remind me to give you my theory on how Mothers Against Drunk Driving ultimately brought down the ability to prosecute the crime.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good. We'll do it next time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bill.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
You've been listening to State of Arrest with South Florida criminal defense attorneys William R. Moore and DUI attorney William Dorenzo. Be sure to join us next week where we talk about money as it pertains to the prosecution and now non-prosecution of DUI. Thanks for listening.